Good morning, good morning. You guys are sounding great this morning. Isn't it nice to know that when you face something in your life that you can't handle, He can, right? Before you're seated, I want you to high five the person sitting next to you. Give them a high five, shake their hand, hug their neck, tell them hello, good to see you. You may be seated. Thank you for being here this morning on this Memorial Day weekend. Before we go any further, I want to take just a second to acknowledge Memorial Day and the sacrifices that we're celebrating this weekend. Those who gave their lives in service of country. Who in here has plans this weekend? Let me see. Anybody got any plans this weekend? Maybe grill out, hang out with family? Okay. It's good to know that we have the freedom to do so because of the sacrifices that were made for our nation. Put our hands together for yes. We're in a two-part series, little mini-series here. Second part today, we're looking at the book of Nehemiah and the story of Nehemiah. Last week we looked at how to make our dreams a reality, how to reach our goals, how to make those things that we want in our lives a reality. We use the same 7 steps that Nehemiah used to go after the dream that God gave him of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. I hope that for those of you that were here last week, I hope that you've thought about your dream or your goal that you want sometime in this past week. But if you don't have a dream, if you don't have a goal, or a plan in your life, I want to urge you to go online and watch last week's message. Take a look at it, take those steps, apply them to your life. Now, after you have a clear vision, after you have a clear goal, after you have a dream that you know that you're focused on, you need to recruit others to help you reach your goal. That's what we're going to talk about today. How to recruit others to support your dream. Now, fortunately, Nehemiah 2 gives us a very practical model of how to do that. But before we look at Nehemiah, before we examine his experience as an example of how to recruit other people to support our dreams, you need to understand 2 facts about dreams. Number 1, no dream is built without support. No dream is ever built without support. Just like a building needs support, your dream needs support. True success is never a one-man show. Anything significant that's done in your life, any great dream will require the support of other people. Now, why will your dream require the support of other people? Why can't you just do it by yourself? It's a good question, right? Well, there's several reasons. First, you don't know everything you need to know. Now, I know some of us feel like we know everything, but you don't know everything you need to know. Number 2, you don't have enough time or energy to do it all by yourself. I'm one of those guys. I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. Anybody else like that? Like, okay, get out of the way. I'll take care of it. I'll handle that. You don't have the time or the energy to do it all by yourself. Number 3, you don't have every talent that you're going to need to make your dream come true. You see, God intentionally wired us to need each other so we'd learn how to work together. Now, Nehemiah could never have fulfilled his dream of rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem and the gates if it wouldn't have happened, right? If he had to do it alone, if he had to do it by himself. In fact, every phase of the dream that God gave Nehemiah would require assistance. Even just traveling back to Jerusalem. Nehemiah chapter 2, we're going to read verses 7 through 9. I also said to the king, if it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. Verse 8. And please give me a letter addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself. And the king granted these requests because the gracious hand of God was on me. Verse 9, when I came to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, I delivered the king's letters to them. The king, I should add, had sent along army officers and horsemen to protect me. Now, did you notice that last phrase? The king actually added an escort of officers and soldiers on horses to help Nehemiah get escorted back to Israel. When you pray and when you ask God for what you need, you've done your planning. We talked about it last week. You've done your planning, you've done your preparation, you got your plan, you got your goal, you're ready to go. Isn't it nice to know that God will provide the things maybe you didn't quite see a need for? Nehemiah didn't ask for this, but it was provided to him, right? So no dream is ever built without support. The second fact about dreams is this: no dream is ever built without opposition. Opportunity and opposition go hand in hand. Opportunity and opposition go together. The moment you decide to go after the dream that God gives you, there's always going to be somebody there to discourage you, to slow you down, to stop you. The moment you say, hey, let's do this, we got this, let's do this, somebody's going to jump up and be like, hey, let's not. It's going to happen. People are naturally resistant to change. They don't even like change when they're living in ruins and rubble, like the people of Jerusalem. And people resist change for a variety of reasons. Let me say it this way. Dream killers are literally everywhere. They're everywhere. They feel it's their job to bring you down. Has anybody ever met someone like that? So opposition is built into every opportunity in life. Every time you have an opportunity, there's going to be opposition. This chapter introduces us to a couple of the vocal opponents or critics of Nehemiah, if you will, who opposed him at literally every step of rebuilding the walls. Their names are Sanballat, what a name, right? Sanballat, and Tobiah. Sanballat and Tobiah. These two men were local leaders in Jerusalem who were not Jewish. They were not Jews. They'd moved to Jerusalem when the Jews had been deported back to Babylon, and they hated the Jews. They took advantage of their suffering, their captivity, and while the Jews were hurting, they were ruling, and they'd made themselves rich and powerful at the expense of other people's misfortune. So when they heard that Nehemiah was coming back to rebuild the city, guess what? It threatened them. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 10. But when Sanballat and Tobiah heard of my arrival, they were very displeased that someone had come to help the people of Israel. Listen, there will always be people who don't want things to change because it'll in their unfair advantage. They want people kept in slavery. They want people bound. They want things to stay exactly how they are. There will also always be people who don't want you specifically to succeed because it'll change things for them. By the way, how did Nehemiah know, even before he got to Jerusalem, that these guys were going to oppose him? Well, he must have sent out scouts in advance, right, to uncover any opposition that he might face. Remember last week, we talked about doing your homework, do your preparation, plan, prepare. Now, because of these two reasons, one, you're going to have opposition to any dream you have in life, and two, you're going to need help from others. You need to learn how to recruit people, recruit others to support your God-given vision. Fortunately, chapter 2 of Nehemiah's story beautifully illustrates how to gain support for your dream. Now, let me give you a little bit of background story. During the great Babylonian Empire, thousands of years ago, the nation of Israel was conquered by Babylon, which is today called Iraq. Most of the Jews were actually deported back to Babylon from their homeland in Israel. They were taken prisoners of war to Iraq, which was Babylon, where they lived in exile for 70 years. But then the Persian Empire came in and destroyed the Babylonian Empire. And under their leadership, the Jews were actually allowed to go back to Jerusalem, back to Israel, and they were allowed to return home. But when they got back to Jerusalem, they discovered that their temple, their homes, the gates, the entire city had been destroyed. And the protective wall and gates around the city had been destroyed. So they were defenseless to guys like Tobiah and Sanballat. Now, Nehemiah was a Jew. He'd been promoted to working in the royal court for the Persian king. We talked about this last week. He had a really smooth job. I mean, it was cushy, okay? He was comfortable, okay? And that's when he gets this dream of rebuilding his hometown. So he prays and he prepares and he plans. He does all the things we talked about last week. And then he asks the king for permission. Hey, I want to go rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He wanted to return home. The king says, all right, cool. Go ahead, do it. Because God had worked in his heart. Now, Nehemiah heads back to Israel, and his next task is what we're going to look at today, what we're going to look at this morning, is how he convinced the defeated, discouraged citizens of Jerusalem to help him with a dream. The story is how Nehemiah succeeded in getting others to help him with his dream. It's found in Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 8 through 20. That's what we're going to look at this morning. It's one of the great success stories in the Bible. It's a really cool story. It's one of my favorite. By involving other people, Nehemiah was able to accomplish in 52 days that which couldn't be done by others in a time period of over 90 years. That's a success story. Now, if you're a business person, you're really going to want to pay attention to this message today. Let's look at the steps that you're going to need to follow anytime you need the cooperation of other people in your life, in your family, in your work, in your school, in your business, whatever it may be. So let's jump right in. Step 1, wait for the right timing. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 6. There is a time and a way for everything. Who knows that to be true by experience? There's a time for everything. Have you ever seen a good idea squashed because it had bad timing? Anybody experience that? Timing can make or break you. In baseball, every pitcher throws the exact same ball, 5 1/4 ounces. It's a baseball. Exactly the same for everyone. Every pitcher stands the exact same distance from home plate, 60 feet, 6 inches. The difference between a pro pitcher and an amateur is one thing: timing. The difference is worth millions. Now, the best example for understanding timing is actually the ministry of Jesus. If you've studied the life of Christ, you'll find that you often see, he says many times, it's not my time. It's not my time yet. Raise your hand if you know that to be true. He says, it's not my time. He actually told his mother, who wanted him to perform a miracle before it was his time, and he said, hey, Mom, nah, not my time yet. Can't be doing that. Well, he did it, but he told her it wasn't his time. It's really not my time, Mom. I shouldn't be doing this. Timing is important. Nehemiah understood the power of sharing his dream at the right time. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. So I arrived in Jerusalem. He just made a 1,000-mile journey, okay? Iraq to Israel, about 1,000 miles. So I arrived in Jerusalem. 3 days later, I slipped out during the night, taking only a few others with me. I had not told anyone about the plans God had put in my heart for Jerusalem. Now that's interesting. This guy has a huge project, right? Rebuild the city of Jerusalem. Build the wall, restore the gates. He's going to need a lot of people to help him. He doesn't make a grand entrance. He didn't come in riding on a white horse, have trumpets sound. Hey, it's me, I'm here, I'm going to help you. He didn't have people shouting for him. There's no big party thrown. I'm here to save the day. He didn't even announce why he was there. He shows up and he doesn't say anything for 3 days. Quiet. What was he doing for those 3 days? Resting from a long journey? Probably. Praying? Probably. We know he's a man of prayer, don't we? Was he watching and observing and learning? Absolutely he was. But I'm guessing as a smart leader, he was also using this delay to build curiosity. Now follow me on this. Nehemiah arrives from the Persian Empire with a royal escort, with soldiers, guys on horses, all the stuff needed to make this dream a reality. He has this, he's got a ton of people with him. He's got a lot of supplies with him, and he just parks outside. Okay? He's just parked out there, right? Everybody knows about Nehemiah by the third day, don't they? He doesn't have to say anything. Hey, can you imagine? Can you imagine what's going on? The people talking back and forth. He's using the silence and the delay to his advantage. He's creating anticipation. He's creating intrigue so people will listen when he actually shares the dream. Now, you have to choose the right timing in sharing your dream. You don't just go out and blurt it out the first time God gives you a dream. You don't have a dream on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning and wake up and tell everybody. And while you're waiting for just the right time to announce your dream, you can do the same things that Nehemiah did. You can rest, you can re-energize, you can pray, you can look around, you can observe, you can see how that dream is going to work, you can pay attention to things. How's that going to happen? And plan, get the facts. You start with waiting until the right time to announce your dream. Step number 2, make sure you've done your homework. Before you go public and announce your dream to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors, to your boss, whoever it may be, make sure you have all the facts. Make sure you got all the current information. Everything's up to date. You know everything. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13. This is the Living Bible. Don't throw things at me. I'm reading. I promise it's in the Bible. What a shame. Yes, how stupid to decide before knowing the facts. Oh, man, that's tough, right? Anybody ever jump the gun, make a decision before you got all the facts? What a shame. Yes, how stupid to decide before knowing the facts. Let me tell you what you don't want to happen. You don't want this to happen when you're making a pitch or a proposal for help. You're sharing your dream, and someone asks you a question, and you don't know the answer. Why? Because you didn't get all the facts. You see, it's not good if they say, hey, well, what would you do if this happens? Well, I got to tell you the truth. I have to admit, I don't know. I actually haven't thought about that. You have to have all the facts and figures to back up your dream before you get started. You got to do your homework. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 23. Get the facts at any price and hold on tightly to all the good sense you can get. Anybody know anybody that needs to read that verse? All right, no, that's, sorry. That was a stray thought, sorry. Now, what happens in the next few verses is Nehemiah's fact-finding mission. Nehemiah secretly leads a research party at night. He didn't do this with everybody watching. He didn't do it with fanfare. He didn't have everybody watch him. He did it at night. He went out and personally inspected the walls and gates of Jerusalem. He didn't depend on secondhand knowledge for his dream. He did his own research. Good leaders do their own research. He learned all that he could about what he was getting ready to start, what he was getting ready to get into. He did his homework for his dream before he started. He's gathering information. He's assessing the size of the problem as an eyewitness before he says anything. You need to do the same thing with your God-given vision. Nehemiah chapter 2, we're going to read verses 12 and 13. I slipped out during the night, taking only a few others with me. I had not told anyone about the plans God had put in my heart for Jerusalem. We took no pack animals with us except the donkey I was riding. Verse 13. After dark, I went out through the valley gate, past the jackal's well, and over to the dung gate to inspect the broken walls and burned gates. Now, doing this research step, right? Do your homework, right? During this research step, you gotta figure everything out. Nehemiah didn't want to attract any attention to what he was doing. So he goes out in the middle of the night. Now, I'm sure some of you, I see you squirming in your seat. Jonathan, why was there a dung gate in Jerusalem? What's that about? Well, I'm going to let you put that one together, okay? I'm going to let you figure that one out on your own. I'm just going to say this. Dung happens. Okay, here we go. Nehemiah chapter 2, we're going to read verses 14 and 15. Then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but my donkey couldn't get through the rubble. So though it was still dark, I went up the Kidron Valley instead, inspecting the wall before I turned back and entered again at the valley gate. So what's going on here? He's surveying the damage, right? It looks like a big job. He's looking at everything. He's surveying the field. It's like surveying the field after a battle, right? This is the not so glamorous and honestly lonely part of leadership that you never really hear about, okay? It's when you're studying the situation and figuring things out in the middle of the night when everybody else is asleep. And when Nehemiah studied the situation, it was bad. It was tough, right? Did you notice that there was so much rubble, he had to get off of his donkey and by himself squeeze through the rubble to see what was going on. That's how bad it was there in Jerusalem. Now, every leader can imagine what Nehemiah is feeling right now, right? He's thinking, he's processing, he's analyzing, he's looking at the damage, he's trying to figure out what's going on, he's looking at the size of the project, the severity of the problem, and it's sinking in as he's surveying the damage of the city. It's all, he's like, okay, this is a big one, right? He's probably thinking it's far worse than I thought. It's a lot more complicated than I ever imagined. I can't believe how difficult it is. How about this one? I've never built anything. I'm a bartender. But God put a dream in his heart. And he'd come this far in faith. He's not given up. Here's the third thing he does in advance before he announces his goal. Step 3. Don't let the dream die before it begins. This is an important one. When God puts a dream in your heart, don't go share it with everybody right away. Don't hop on Facebook, please. Please don't hop on Facebook and tell everybody about the dream God gave you last night, okay? You have to protect your dream. Don't be in such a hurry to announce it to everyone. Don't do that. You got to protect your dream. Dreams can be destroyed very quickly. They're fragile when they first spring up. So don't be in a hurry to announce your dream. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7. There's a time to be quiet and there's a time to speak. All right, I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm just going to move on. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 16. The city officials did not know I had been out there or what I was doing, for I had not yet said anything to anyone about my plans. I had not yet spoken to the Jewish leaders, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or anyone else in the administration. So what's he doing? He's protecting his dream from dying before it even starts, before it even begins. Verse 12, he says this, I had not told anyone what God had put in my heart to do. Why is he doing this? Why is Nehemiah being so secretive about this survey, about the dream that God put in his heart? Because he doesn't want the project to be killed even before it gets started. You see, the background here is this. There had been 90 years of negativism in Jerusalem. And 2 previous times, somebody else had tried and attempted to rebuild the wall, and they failed miserably. He didn't want people going, oh, you know what? Hey, man, we already tried that. And actually, we've actually tried that twice. That's not a good idea. We tried that twice. It didn't happen. That's not going to work. Here's a good one. We've always done it this way. We've always lived this way. That rubble's been there since I was a kid. All the citizens of Jerusalem felt discouraged and defeated and probably apathetic. They'd gotten used to living in the rubble. They'd gotten used to living in the mess and the ruins for 90 years. Besides, Nehemiah didn't have all of his facts yet that he needed. Let me ask you this question. Is it easier to promote a good idea or kill a good idea? Anybody ever done a group project? Man, you can kill an idea like that. It's obvious, right? It's easy to kill the idea. Promoting is more difficult. Have you noticed that negative people are always louder than the positive people? And no? Is it just me? Okay, all right. To me, it's not even close. I think there's certainly far more negative people than positive people. And I think in Nehemiah's situation in Jerusalem, there's far more negative people than there are positive people living in that rubble. They'd become jaded, apathetic to their situation, feeling that it would never change. Some of you may be thinking, my situation's never going to change. I've been in this rubble my whole life. I'm going to continue to live in this rubble. Well, you don't know what God knows. And you don't realize how good God is and how quick he can act. How quickly he can change that situation. Nehemiah had taken these first 3 preparation steps in Jerusalem. Now he's ready to unveil his dream. He's ready to communicate it to everyone else. And how he did it, what he said, and the way he did it was brilliant. So these following steps are the same thing that you need to do and say when you're trying to recruit support for something you want to do, for your dream, for your vision, for the vision that God gave you. And if you'll follow what Nehemiah did and say what Nehemiah said, you're going to have a much more receptive audience. Here's what you say to recruit support when trying to get other people to care about what you care about or to do what needs to be done. You see something that's out there that needs to be done, this needs to change or that needs to happen. How are you going to get other people to help you? Step number 4, create community by using we and us, not me and I. Talk about we, not me. The goal here is to create community. The words you use, it's not my dream or here's what I'm going to do. Think about this. Nehemiah is an outsider, okay? He never lived in Jerusalem. His parents had probably lived there, possibly, but he'd never lived in Jerusalem. He's an outsider. But even though he's an outsider, he talks like an insider. He talks about we and us and me, or me and we and us, not me and my and I. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 17. But now I said to them, you know very well what trouble we are in. Everyone say we. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. Everyone say us. We and us. What's he doing with these words? He's identifying with the people. He says we, not me. He says us, not I. He's building community. John Maxwell said, great leaders create a team for the dream. Nehemiah doesn't arrive in Jerusalem saying, you know what, you guys are just a bunch of losers. I can't look at the mess you guys have been living in. You're living in a heap of rubble. You act like you don't even see it. You're defenseless. You've given up. Tobiah and Sanballat are running the show and you don't even care. You're used to living like a failure. You know what? You guys suck. This is a mess. He didn't put the blame on them, did he? There's going to be many times in your life, I want you to pay attention right here. There's going to be many times in your life when you're going to see a problem and you have a decision to make. You're going to have to choose between fixing the blame or fixing the problem. You're going to have to choose. Now, married folk just got real quiet because that's something that happens on a regular basis. You get to fix the blame or you get to fix the problem. You got to make the decision. Remember, when you blame others, you lower their motivation. When you accept blame, you increase motivation. Nehemiah doesn't play the role of an outside expert, right? Coming in here and tell everybody, hey, I know how to do this job. I'm going to tell you. He didn't say, I'm going to be your savior. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to fix this for you guys. You guys, you're not doing a great job. Let me take care of it. Instead, he says, I'm one of you. This is our problem. And together, I know that we can succeed this time because God's on our side. To reach your goal, to make your dream a reality, you have to identify with the feelings of other people. You have to draw them in by offering to help them accomplish something they've always wanted. You create a sense of community. This is what leadership's all about. Step number 5, help them envision your vision. Now, you probably heard the expression, I'll believe it when I see it. Anybody ever heard that? I'll believe it when I see it. That's actually true, but in a different way that the phrase is given. It is true, though. You'll believe it when you see it. Nothing great is ever accomplished with people until they see it in their minds for the first time. You have to see it in your mind first before you can accomplish it, right? Whether you're an architect building a building, you visualize it. An entrepreneur building a business, you see what it will look like. A teacher creating a lesson plan. A chef preparing to cook a meal. A leader striving for change. Maybe a parent working with their kids trying to change a certain behavior. You have to see it first. You have to visualize it. You have to envision it. You have to see it in your mind. And then you have to get others to see the end result in their mind before it will happen. Nehemiah graphically and dramatically painted a picture of how bad the problem was. Remember, these people are apathetic. They've walked past these things every day. They've been living in this rubble for years. In fact, he didn't minimize it. He emphasized it. Part of verse 17 says, "You know very well what trouble we are in." Many translations say this, "You can see the trouble." Nehemiah is getting them to picture and see. He's got to see the problem, right? He's getting them to acknowledge it. Why? They're not seeing it anymore. They're ignoring it. When you live with something, when you live around something long enough, it's wrong, it's messed up. It's human nature to just kind of start ignoring it. When you live with a bad situation, you start by justifying it, then you rationalize it, then you ignore it, and then at some point you just become completely apathetic to it. Now, let me personalize it for you. All right, let me make a connection. We have a fan in our living room at home, okay? I loved this fan. It was a great ceiling fan. Loved it. Wonderful fan. Love the fan. One day, no more fan. Stopped working on me. Just quit one day. Don't know why. Stopped. When I first noticed it, really bugged me. Irritated me, like nails on a chalkboard. The fan's broken. Got to get this fan fixed. Really irritated me. Week later, not fixed yet. Still bothered me, but not as much. Month later, didn't really bother me too much. Every now and then, you walk over, flip it. Oh, no fan. It's broken. It's broken. Haven't got that fixed yet. 6 months later, still broken. Why? Because we become comfortable with the ruin and the rubble in our lives. We ignore it. Nehemiah is trying to get them to face the facts. Nehemiah is trying to get them to acknowledge the fan's broken. Because he's researched the facts and things aren't good. Look at the rubble. Things were bad. He had a vision to make them better for them, and now he's helping them envision his vision. Change never occurs until we become discontent. That's the only time change will happen, is when you become discontent with something. If you want to create change in your home, in your marriage, in your family, in your school, in your work, in your community, in this country, in the world, you have to show them how it can be better. You have to paint a picture of how it can be better. You have to show them. They have to see it. You create discontent and present a better option. Step number 6, speak to their hearts. We often assume that people base their choices on logic and reason. That's not true. Most of the decisions you make in life are based on how you feel. All right, it got real quiet. I could hear a pin drop. There's some guys looking at me, giving me some dirty looks. Felt you balk at that a little bit. Well, Pastor Jonathan, all the decisions I make are thought through and logical and with reason and common sense. Okay, sir, sit down, please. I'm going to give your wife the microphone in a second. Calm down. Trust me on this one. You base a lot of your decisions on feelings, on your emotions. You make decisions based on your emotions, and then later on, maybe, you look for a logical reason to justify the emotional decision that you made. All right, it's getting quiet in here. I can take a hint. I'll move on. Here we go. So what does Nehemiah do? He speaks to their hearts. He makes a connection to them. He appeals to their desire to feel good about themselves. Nothing wrong with that. And he appeals to them being proud of their city. Who wants to be proud of their city? Everybody wants to be proud of their city, right? Pacers are doing pretty good in the, not our city, but they're our Indiana's team, right? You want to be proud of your city. You want to be proud of where you live. Next part of verse 17, he says this, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. It's interesting, right? The motivation for rebuilding the wall that he used was so we will no longer be living in disgrace. The New Jerusalem Bible translation says this, so we will end our humiliation. The New Century Version translation says, so we won't be ashamed anymore. What's Nehemiah doing? He's appealing to their dignity. He's a smart guy. He says, guys, we're better than this. We can do better than this. We don't have to put up with this mess. We don't have to live in this rubble and this ruin. We're God's people. He doesn't want us living in disgrace. He doesn't want us living in humiliation. This kind of faith that Nehemiah is projecting now is a breath of fresh air to people who are discouraged and defeated and demoralized. He's going, we can do this with God's help. That's what he's telling these people that have lived with this for so long. We don't have to live in disgrace or in shame. We'll be able to hold our heads high again. Now, one of the things that this communicated to the people of Jerusalem was that this leader, this Nehemiah dude, he's different. He actually cares about us. And he did care about them. He didn't want them to feel bad. He didn't want them to be disgraced or feel humiliated. But he had an even deeper motivation than that. Nehemiah was concerned for God's glory. Because not only were the Jewish people being disgraced, God was being disgraced. The Jews were called God's chosen people. Now, I want you to see this. The whole world's laughing at them. Those poor Jews. They claim to worship the one true God. Look at where they live. Look at they don't even have walls. Look at the rubble that they live in. Their God must not be very powerful at all. It was a poor testimony. It was an embarrassment to God's reputation. God's name was being defamed by others. So Nehemiah, when he's trying to motivate people to get involved in the dream, he doesn't appeal to external motivations. He doesn't use a reward system. He doesn't say, hey, whoever helps me rebuild the wall, you guys can earn a all-inclusive stay at vacation at the Dead Sea. Come hang out. It's going to be awesome. Free. Instead of external motivation or rewards, he uses internal or eternal motivations. You'll feel good about yourself and God will be glorified. Step 7, tell your story. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 18. Then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been on me and about my conversation with the king. Nehemiah gives his testimony. He tells them the story. How did we get to this place? How did I get here? How did we do this? This is an important part. You have to share your dream. You have to share your testimony. People want to know what it means to you and what God has done in your life. Nehemiah is telling his story of trusting God. You need to tell your story of trusting God when enlisting people to help you with your dream. Because when you tell your story of trusting God, it builds faith in people. It builds faith for other people. When people see your example of living by faith, it motivates them to live by faith. So Nehemiah explains how God put a burden in his heart, right? He said, I didn't want this job. In fact, I had a pretty sweet gig back in Persia. I worked in the king's court. It was nice. We had air conditioning. They didn't have air conditioning. That's a joke. It was nice. And God said, well, why don't you be the answer to your own prayer, Nehemiah? You keep praying for the people of Jerusalem. Why don't you fix it? Why don't you go do something about it? And God says, that's what I want for you, Nehemiah. This is the dream I'm putting in your heart. So I did my homework. I prayed. I planned, prepared. God opened the door to give me the opportunity to share my dream with the king of Persia. And you know what? God changed his heart. He gave me everything I wanted. He gave me permission to come. He gave me protection for my journey. He even gave me provision of lumber that we're going to need to succeed, that we're going to need to build the walls. And he's even going to pay for the whole project. What do you guys think? It's a pretty powerful testimony, isn't it? It was a miracle that the king of Persia was even letting him do this, okay? That he's allowing him to do something that he had previously said, nope, we're not doing that, bad idea. Nope, we need to stop that. So Nehemiah's testimony is thrilling and it's inspirational. It's convincing the people. So how'd they respond? Well, of course, they responded positively. Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 18. They replied at once, yes, let's rebuild the wall. So they began the good work. What's happened here? The vision is being transferred. Let us rebuild the wall. First, it was Nehemiah's vision. Now it's our vision. We're going to do it together. Step number 8. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Now, this step is basically understood. You've gone through all these other steps, right? You've given your testimony. You've inspired the people. You made a connection with them. It kind of goes without stating that the next step is that you ask them, hey, do you want to help, right? But it's easy for people to default to not wanting to be direct, okay? They get nervous. They worry. They get anxious. You don't pump people up with all this inspirational talk and your testimony and all this and then just walk away like, hey, that's cool, right? You got to take the next step. You got to ask them. You get specific and you ask for help. This is the moment of truth. It's all come down to this. Will you join me in this task? Will you join me and help me achieve this dream for us? Nehemiah says, come, let's rebuild the wall now. You got to ask your friends. You got to ask. That's the tough part, though, isn't it? That's the scary part of having a dream. That's the scary part of trying to get other people to help, is saying, hey, I need your help. Will you help me? The Bible says, you have not because you ask not. Now, that's not just about asking God for his help. It's also true about asking others for their help. Last week, I warned you about saying no for other people. Anybody remember that from last week? Never assume you know what the answer will be in advance. Never. If they want to say no, let them say no, right? Make them look you in the eye and tell you no. Never say no for anyone. Your job is to ask. Now, when you think, well, I don't like to ask other people for help. Okay. I don't like to rely on other people. Okay. I don't want to ask him for help. He's got other commitments. He's doing other things. He serves over there. He does this. I'll just do it myself. When you say that you'll do it yourself, you reveal your own insecurity. You limit what God wants to do in your life because now it's limited to just you. You just cut everybody else out. And you rob other people of the blessing of being involved. Step 9. I like this one. Ignore the haters and know God's got your back. Ignore the haters. When you finally lay out the dream, you lay it all out there, here it is, right? Will you help me? There's going to be haters. There's going to be people that got nothing positive to say. Anybody know the movie Field of Dreams? Kevin Costner, baseball movie. Okay. Famous line, if you build it, they will come. You guys know what I'm talking about? If you build it, they will come. Okay. I'm going to change that this morning a little bit. If you dream it, they will hate. I promise. If you dream it, there's going to be haters. If you dream it, they will hate. You have to tell yourself this, who cares? That's what you have to say to yourself, who cares? Say that with me. Say, who cares? Who cares? So what? Who cares? Say that with me. Say, so what? So what? Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 19. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arab heard of our plan, they scoffed contemptuously. Haters. Can you handle it? Can you deal with it? You don't need the approval of other people to make you happy. I'm going to say it again. I don't think they heard me in the back. You don't need the approval of other people to make you happy. All right, let me say it this way. What other people think of you is none of your business. Verse 19 continues. What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king, they asked? They're saying, who do you think you are? This hasn't been done in 90 years. Nobody's been able to do this. Why do you think you're going to be able to rebuild this wall? I bet you're rebelling against the king. They're still trying to get the king to come in and squash the whole thing, trying to make him afraid. See, in Ezra, the book just before Nehemiah, that's what worked last time. Guys just like this, they said, we'll just send a letter to the king and we'll tell him, this is what they convinced the king. And this is why the king said no the last time. They said, if Jerusalem gets a wall and gates, you won't be able to control the people any longer. And he said, nope, we're not doing that. And he stopped it. So that statement right there has history. He said, hey, are you trying to rebel against the king? Everybody say haters. Verse 20, I replied, the God of heaven will help us succeed. We, his servants, will start building this wall, but you have no share, legal right, or historic claim in Jerusalem. Now, did you notice there's a third guy? Where did Geshem come from? It was Sanballat and Tobiah at the beginning, right? Originally. Now we have Geshem. I need to warn you. I've seen this. I know this one from experience. The further you go with God's dream, the more likely the opposition is going to grow too. As I close this morning, I just want to point out that Nehemiah, he didn't spend much time responding to critics. I don't spend much time responding to critics. You shouldn't spend any time responding to critics. Chasing words. Don't spend time chasing words. Well, why, Pastor Jonathan? Why? Did you hear what they said about me? You're not going to have any time to get anything else done if you keep chasing what everybody else is saying about you. If you respond to every critic, the devil will make sure that you're constantly criticized. Think about that. You'll never get anything else done. And if all you're doing is reacting to what other people say, reacting to what other people think of you, you got no time for your dream. Nehemiah simply replied, the God of heaven will give us success. You don't matter. I'm just going to ignore you. Leave me alone. We're his servants, is what he said. We'll rebuild this wall. Regardless of your criticism or your attacks or your mocking, your ridiculing, whatever it is, doesn't matter. God's on my side. Ignore the haters. Regardless of the dream that God gives you, you can do it. You can do this. You can reach that goal. You can make that dream a reality. The same God who used Nehemiah, who had never built anything in his life, he was a bartender, he lived in the palace, wants to use you in the same way. Stop making excuses. Do it today. Start dreaming the dream God has for you. Use the steps that he's given us here in his word through Nehemiah's life. Make a plan and chase your dream. It'll change your life. Let's pray. Lord, when we look around at our world today, we see a lot of things that need to be changed. There's a lot of people living their lives in rubble and ruin. They've become disillusioned and demoralized and discouraged and defeated and even apathetic. And they need somebody to help them see your dream for their lives. Lord, I pray that Family Worship Center will be a church of godly dreamers who attempt great things for God and expect great things from God. I'm asking you this morning to help us see just a glimpse of what you would like to do in our lives. through our lives. Help us, just like you helped Nehemiah, to take these steps of faith in making a difference in our world. In Jesus' name, amen. Put your hands together for God's word this morning. I want to thank you for worshiping with us this morning. We're going to worship together in giving in just a moment. If you'd like to prepare your tithe and offering. For those of you joining us at home, the information has been on your screen. If you'd like to join your faith with ours and sow a seed today, you may do so. Let's put our hands together as we dismiss the online crowd this morning.